So I can't believe this day has come.
We're
right?
here.
We're here.
We're here.
And for so long, I just had this vision of doing a home collection. And when I contacted you, I had this vision in my head of these beautiful dinnerware pieces, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I found you. I called and you responded and we connected.
Happened very quickly.
It happened really quickly, and I'm so impressed with the work that you do and how you involve students, and it really blends into the vision for Summer Colony Living to work with emerging designers, right?
That's great.
So our interests are aligned in helping others increase their platform through
Give them
art.
opportunity. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So tell me about this process. I know that you just gave me color samples to choose from, and I think I did a pretty good job.
You did a great job. I think what was really smart on your part, after coming up here and seeing what the studio looks like and having a conversation and understanding a little bit more about what this program is, you invited me down to your shop.
Right.
And I think that was critical because it allowed me to get a sense of your choices in terms of artists and designers, how you've laid out your retail shop, and there's a really strong color palette that you've chosen. So it really made sense for me to bring these bullseye samples, which there's hundreds of colors, but for you to kind of play in your shop with the colors that you already choose,
beautiful.
So you can see that they're going to fit really well with your aesthetic.
Thank you.
I don't think I could have made these choices without you first selecting.
Really?
Yeah.
Thank
and
you.
the other really nice thing I think that's happening here is that with glass, because we're doing multiple layers, that allows you to get overlap so that the color changes even though there's only two colors here. So that was really fun to play with.
Right. And then we have these beautiful coasters.
And the coasters, initially I tried using this more complex design, but it really started to lose its magic on such a small scale. So what the designer and I decided to do was to kind of come in closer and just take a section of these larger patterns so that they still work together, but then these are unique. They're not trying to mimic what you already see on the larger scale. So everything works together, I think, really well.
Oh my God.
As a set.
This is just an amazing place setting. I can just see the dinner party.
It's pretty dynamic. I mean, I can't imagine what this is going to be like once you activate it with food.
Right.
But I can just imagine right before the event how stunning that table is going to look, you know, with all these different patterns kind of vibrating on the table. Yeah.
So let's talk about the creative process. So I selected colors that I was drawn to. Then what happened next? Then you went into your lab and created all these beautiful pieces.
Well, then I worked with the designer. So initially, I don't know if you remember, but you came in and you saw a sample that we had used for a class, and you said, that's it. That's the kind of design I want. And I was able to then work with the designer, who was actually an artist in resident here, which is part of your interest, is to give one of our artists an opportunity.
Right.
And she took that initial idea and those colors and then started to work on something that felt very authentic for her aesthetic. And so this is what she came up with.
She did a great job.
So it was really fun because I actually worked with two other people, you and Martha Lewis, who's the Portland-based designer.
Right.
And I feel like for me, I was really just the fabricator. I'm kind of the middleman here, where I hear what you want, I see what the designer can do, and then I fabricate it, and I actually make it happen, which is kind of a humbling role for me because normally I'm the artist and I'm coming up with the idea and I'm fabricating it. So this was really refreshing to kind of step back and just do what was given to me to kind of follow somebody else's pattern and then to make adjustments so that they'll work for you.
Yeah.
Which there weren't many because you selected the color and I think it worked.
Together.
It worked really well.
So let's go through the creative process. And so we have sample, and then then we have design, and then what happens next?
Well, then I began with the prototypes. So these are, is that what you're talking about?
Yes.
Like what came next? So these are the actual prototypes where we have a tray, 2 examples of dinner plates, a large salad bowl, and then the coasters. And we just go from there.
And then where are they made? That's what I'm kind of getting
Where
to.
they made?
Yeah, so like,
They are made right here.
Right.
So as you can see, I've laid out so that I can actually begin fabrication. I laid out the different colors. So we have clear, the marigold, a turquoise, and then the light gray. And so what you're seeing here is the pattern that I've printed to scale, which I can then start to follow to begin to cut all the different units that go together for the fusing. So once I cut all the different pieces of glass, I'll lay them out flat so that they're stacked together, and then they go into the kiln. So what you're seeing over there is a really large Paragon kiln where I can fill that whole kiln with all these different patterns, begin to fuse them flat, and then I slump the shaped objects into a ceramic shell, which I could pull out if you're interested in seeing that. But
I am.
so over here, this is an example of a smaller bowl shape, but it gives you a sense of what happens once you have the flat fused sheet. I can then lay that flat sheet into this ceramic shape, put it back into the kiln, and it will slump to make all these different,
and then it goes in here,
and then it goes back in the kiln. So this is, and Anna is our current artist in resident, and she's beginning to fill it up with her work, but it gives you a sense of how many pieces I could actually fill in one firing. So these objects are going through 2 firings. The first one is to fuse everything flat, to kind of seal everything and bring it together. And then the second firing is when I put the ceramic shells in here and I slump all the glass forms into their shapes. And then they're done.
And how long is that process?
Each firing is about, I would say about 12 hours.
So they're really special.
They're really special. They're really one of a kind. If you look at each plate, each one is, you can tell it's not manufactured by a machine. Every
Right.
piece is definitely hand cut, so each piece has its own sort of character.
Mm-hmm.
So it's pretty laborious because I have to go through all the cutting, then the fusing, and then the slumping, and then if there's any finishing, then we go through that.
Sure.
Yeah.
And that's what makes it so special.
Yes.
Though. Yes.
Yeah. Definitely.
They came up beyond my imagination.
I'm pretty happy too. And I can show you what it's like to actually cut the glass if you're interested in
Yes.
this. So I'm using only bullseye glass. The glass is actually made in Portland, Oregon, where I was for 20 years, and I have a really special relationship with them. They give all of my artists a certain amount of glass to play with because glass is not cheap. It's a very expensive material. So with the 3 choices that you've chosen here, I think I'll just show you how I cut a piece of clear.
Okay.
That way you can see the pattern through the glass.
Okay.
So the different tools that I have here, I have a pair of running pliers, and this is for once you score the glass, you can squeeze this gently and the glass will snap. These are grozing pliers, and you use this if maybe the break isn't very clean, and you can use this almost like a file to cut off little extra bits. And then this is our cutting tool, which is really nice because it rotates, so it can give you kind of a curved line or a very, very straight line. We put mineral oil in the handle so that it's lubricated, and the blade is a little tiny round blade, almost like a pizza cutter. So you just roll that on the glass, and then you gently squeeze it, and it snaps.
So it's really about precision.
It's very much about precision so that your glass is going to come together super tight.
Sure.
Yeah. So once I lay this glass over the pattern, a little tricky to pick up. So I will start with this piece right here. Go ahead and start to line it up. And these are a little bit more challenging because they have the circle. Straight lines are much easier to cut than curved lines. So the first thing that I'll do is I'll go ahead and I'll trace that pattern right onto the glass. And then with the curved line, I can go ahead and just sort of freehand it. And then I'm ready to cut. So I'll move the pattern so that it doesn't throw me off with my line. And then I will use this longer ruler because I'm going to make one really long cut.
So you cut the entire line?
I have to cut the entire line because you can't, like a pair of scissors, you can't just cut here and cut here. Glass is going to want to run down the score line. So then I have to really plan out these patterns well so that I'm utilizing as much of the glass as possible.
I got it.
And I reduce the amount of scrap. So just for a demo purpose, I'm going to go ahead and just cut this one piece. And you'll hear a very particular sound when I run the blade on there.
Wow.
Which is really satisfying.
Wow.
And then I can go ahead and take the running pliers, go right on that scribed line, and just give it a gentle squeeze. And it pops.
Wow.
If you do it right. Otherwise, the line could kind of go off on a curve. So you want to make sure that you've scribed heavily enough so that pressure really goes straight down that line. We teach workshops here, and this is one of the most popular processes that students just love to learn, is cutting and fusing. So when you do a curved line, then you freehand it. So you'll notice I pulled on the straight lines, and I will push with the curved line so I can see where I'm going.
Okay. Wow.
So every little piece takes time and precision.
And then you put it together like a puzzle at the end.
Yes. And your objects here are 2 layers.
So they're overlaid.
They're overlaid so that your cutting has to be really accurate so that patterns start to match up. And you can see. So there's a little bit of scrap that goes in, but not too much.
So then you cut the other pieces and just kind of...
Right. So this is my clear piece, and if you're just looking at the yellow shape, then I will go to the marigold and figure out how I want to cut this into 3 pieces, and then this piece right here and that piece will be clear. Then I go to the gray layer, which will be this big piece and then these 2 pieces of clear.
And then you bake it.
And then I cook it. I put it in the kiln and I fuse it. So we go up to about 1480 in Fahrenheit to fuse, and only about 1200 to slump, to kind of relax it into that ceramic shape.
Oh my God.
So
I love that.
It's quite a process. It's really satisfying, and
we need to frame this.
Yeah, the pattern is really beautiful.
Our first one, right?
With all the marks.
Yeah. Wouldn't that be cool?
Well, it gives you a sense of what it takes actually.
Can
to
we
go
frame
into
it?
Sure, you can have it.
Hey, that's awesome.
So yeah, now you understand a little bit more about the process, and you can see it's pretty time consuming.